James reached around his back and retrieved a needle. With a swipe of his hand, the needle flew through the air at a high speed. Ah! The man was hit by the needle, causing his gun to fall to the floor. Boss, Amena here, Ron said. James nodded and said, pass the order. We are going to surround the factory, nobody can leave. The rest of the men follow me into the factory. Ron relayed the order instantly. At the same time, outside the factory, hundreds of vans lined up in an ordered manner. Armed men in black suits emerged from those vans. The men swiftly moved to every exit of the factory, while some of them entered the building. Boss, a few hundred men assembled themselves into neat rows, stood upright, and responded in sync. The factory men were shocked by the scene. James led the way forward, leading the huge pack of men. He knew his way around the place. With ease, he located a hidden door. Before James gave his order, the men behind him raised their guns and shot the guards by the door. Ads by Pub Future. A few men marched forward to open up a path for James. The group walked along the tunnel, venturing deeper into the underground. Along their way, they encountered many fully armed mercenaries. However, none of them was a match for the Black Dragon army, especially when the men James selected were the elites in the army. The soldiers cleared every single opponent in their way. Soon, they arrived at a lavishly decorated secret room. All of Jake's subordinates kneeled on the floor, guns pointed at their heads. James sat on the couch, smoking a cigarette, appearing nonchalant about the massacre that had just taken place. Where is Jake? Bring him here right now. Jake had another identity, Jay Fallon, the medical genius in Kensington. Normally, he would not be here. One of his subordinates called him immediately. Right at that moment, Jake was discussing the annual medical competition with a few other well-respected doctors. He did not expect his private phone to ring, and expressed his slight annoyance. He stood up and apologized. Gentlemen, please excuse me. He walked to one of the back rooms and called back. Boss, bad news. Our base got raided. What? Jake's heart sank. James took over the phone and said, Jake, meet me right now. Or else, I am going to ruin the underground intelligence network that you spent decades building. James. Jay grunted before he warned, do not attempt to do anything stupid. I'll make you regret it if you do. I'll give you an hour. Let's just say, it won't be pretty if you arrive late. With that, James hung up. Shoal. Jake smashed his phone on the ground out of anger. He invested decades of time, money, and effort to develop his underground intelligence network. The last thing he would want is for James to destroy it. Get my car ready, now. He was not about to take any chances. At the same time, he ordered, assemble the men to provide backup to headquarters. He had connections to many people as the person in charge of the underground intelligence network. Many of those people were murderers and psychopathic killers. James was walking into the tiger's den by raiding his base. He knew James used to be a black dragon, but since his resignation, many people had wanted him dead. If he managed to kill James, he would be doing those big shots a huge favor. At the repair factory in the suburbs, Jay was pulling up with a large number of men. Hold up. Just when they were about to arrive, he suddenly requested the driver to stop. He fished out his phone and ordered, go get a handle on the current situation of the factory. A man stepped down from the car behind him. It was not long before the man returned and delivered his report. Boss, there are people inside and outside of the factory. Every single one of them is armed. What? Jay exclaimed, full armor. Yes, it seems like they are a trained army. *T. Frustrated, Jay punched the car. His subordinate asked, Boss, what do we do? Jay took a deep breath, trying to calm down. After a moment of deliberation, he gave a command, stay calm, pass the order for everyone to retreat. Ads by Pub Future. Understood. Jay eyed the factory ahead of him and sank into deep thought. He did not know James would actually bring a whole army with him. He specialized in intelligence. He had so many connections in Kensington, yet he did not receive any information on so many people entering the city. These men must have come from the southern plains. They were all highly trained and experienced Black Dragon soldiers. His men were gangsters and mercenaries. How could they possibly be an even match for the Black Dragon army? he decided to retreat after some consideration. He went to a villa located a few kilometers away and entered the backyard. He walked down an underground tunnel hidden in the yard. The repair factory was not his only base. That place had more than one entrance and exit. The underground chamber was a maze. Quickly, he arrived at the room James was in. Once he saw all of his men kneeling on the floor with guns to their heads, his face became red with rage. In mere seconds, he put on a pleasant, businesslike smile and strode toward James. James, what a rare guest. I wonder what information you are asking for this time. James looked at his watch and grinned. Good, you're punctual. He pointed to the couch opposite him. Let's sit down and have a chat. Jake sat down following the suggestion. James tossed him a cigarette on the table. Jay took it, but he did not light it. James lit his own cigarette. Jake. He set his eyes on the man before him, and his tone switched to a serious, menacing one, the great Dr. Fallon. So, you're working alone now. James, you were joking, right? An eerie half-smile formed on Jake's face. He was fully aware of the purpose of James's visit, but all he could do was play dumb. I'll give you two options. 1. Surrender to me and work for me. 2. Die. James never had any intention to talk peacefully with this man. He only wanted to take control of him at any cost. If he could not do that, he would kill Jake. Jake's anxiety grew. He did not expect that James would be so forward about his heartless intentions. He contemplated quietly. He hated the idea of being somebody's goon after having spent half of his life working to get where he was. Yet, if he refused, he knew James would kill him on the spot without batting his eye. James spoke again. There is a limit to my patience. Once I kill you, I can easily take over this underground intelligence network that you worked so hard on. The only reason I am keeping you alive is that I think you might still be of some use to me. Jake came to his senses, and spoke. James, this is too excessive. Do you seriously think you'll survive if you have this underground intelligence network? Do you know how many important people want you dead? You are going to wind up dead, either way. You don't have to worry about that. James stared at him. I'll count to 3. If you refuse, it'll take it as your final decision. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll promise you. Jake finally gave in as soon as James reached the last number. Jake was surrounded by the infamous Black Dragon army. There was nothing he could do except to yield to James' demands. His only other option was a bullet in his brain. James smirked. Everything was going on as he planned. I've gotten rid of all of your useless garbage here. I'll deploy 1,000 men from the southern plains for you. Ads by Pub Future. Jake drew in a sharp breath. They were the Black Dragon army from the southern plains. He was right. Jake, as it stands, your current network isn't strong enough. What you need to do is to expand it. I need you to penetrate all the way to the capital, and eventually, the whole world. Jake scowled at him. Do it yourself if it's so easy. The way he put it, building an intelligence empire was akin to taking a walk in a park. The capital, the whole world, only if it were really this easy. Jake, you'd do well to remember this. Your life is in my hands right now, so you better watch your tongue. Stay in line. If you are going to be difficult, I can end your life and push another guy like you up the ladder. James talked as if he was talking about something trivial. You don't understand, James. It's not as simple as you think. The underground intelligence network is highly secretive. To penetrate a new city takes a lot of resources. We need cover. James waved his hand, signaling him to stop. That is your job. Just do whatever I say. The only assistance I can give you is money and manpower. I doubt you need money though. You've been raking in the cash for quite a while. It's time for you to do some spending. Jake bit down his response. He did mutter to himself, who's the richer one here? Ron. Yes, boss. Don't go back to the clinic, stay here and assist Ron. Graham. Watch his every move. If he slacks off, kill him and take over his underground intelligence network. James gave his directive. Understood, sir. Cold sweat ran down Jake's back. James was not kidding when he gave that order. James, relax. Of course, I'll give it 100% in effort. James nodded satisfactorily. That's my boy. I'll make sure nobody knows your true identity. No one is going to know you are Jay Fallon. Your family, especially your beautiful granddaughter, will be safe. This could not have been a more obvious threat. Jake sank into the couch. He was mentally spent. He knew he would spend the rest of his life being somebody else's tool. After getting what he came for, James left right away. Ron began cleaning the chamber. Jake followed him all the while. He could not help but shiver at the fact that all of his mercenaries were killed. Thank God he did not act hastily. If he actually tried to go against these people, they would be completely wiped out by the Black Dragon army in a split second. James drove back to Kensington. He went to Common Clinic, took May, and drove her to the military hospital. He wanted to meet Henry along with the Blight King to create a legitimate identity for May. He did not have the authority to do so. However, it was something Blight King could easily do. Military hospital, intensive care unit. Whitney was wiping Henry's body down. After a few days of rest, Henry had come to, albeit he was still very weak. James walked into his ward with May. Whitney stopped and greeted him. "Hey, James." James waved his hand. When he saw Henry had regained consciousness, he let out a relieved sigh. Henry woke up earlier than James thought he would. "James." Henry greeted him with a feeble voice from his bed. "Sorry. I wasn't good enough." James sat down on the side of his bed. "It's okay, everything's over now. Focus on your recovery. After you get better, we can fight together again. We can create a new empire in Kensington just like we did in the battlefields of the Southern Plains." "Yes," Henry answered. James felt his pulse to assess his current condition. He did a series of tests before he wrote a new prescription for Henry. After that, he called Blight King. Ads by Pub Future. "Blight, I'm at the military hospital right now. Come over if you have time." James realized Blight King was not alone at the moment. He knew that Blight King was being followed at the moment. If he went to see him, he would only cause him more trouble. Blight King rushed over moments after the call. He arrived within 30 minutes. "James, what's the matter?" Blight King spoke frankly. James pointed to May. "She's a pariah. She needs you to get her a legitimate identity." Blight King looked at May and asked, "Who's this?" "Don't worry about it." "Fine." Blight King did not ask anything else other than her requisite information such as her age. After that, he left. Whitney was a busybody. She pulled James aside and whispered, "James, who is this pretty lady?" To which, James replied with a smile. James stayed in the hospital to accompany Henry. "Brother James, can I have a cigarette?" Henry requested. Since he woke up last night, his nicotine addiction had been tormenting him, but Whitney would not let him smoke. "No problem." James lit a cigarette. However, Henry couldn't move his fingers. James held the cigarette in his hand for him to smoke. "James, why are you letting him smoke? Look at how heavily injured he is." Whitney looked rather upset. "You are a doctor too. Don't you know about the dangers of smoking?" James laughed it off. "Just one cigarette won't do anything. At most, it'll make him feel better. When he feels better, he will recover faster." Whitney pouted her lips. "This is nonsense." James smiled. Henry's face was blissful after that one cigarette. "James, how's the situation at the Southern Plains?" Back in Mount Thunder Pass, Henry did not know what happened because he lost consciousness. James summarized the whole event. From how they battled the 28 nation martial arts gurus on their way to the mountain, being chased after their 100,000-men army, to they went back and captured all 28 generals and conned more than 9 trillion out of them. May was surprised by this. As a killer, she investigated James in great detail before a mission. However, all information she had were unverified rumors. Now that James was revealing everything right in front of her, she could not help but be in awe. After fighting the 28 nation martial arts gurus, he downed dozens of helicopters while being chased after the 100,000-men army. How'd he manage to do all that? James made it sound like something he did every day, but everybody listening was in terror, especially Henry. Henry was the general of the Southern Plains. He, in particular, would know how dangerous the 28 nation fighters were. He also knew how difficult it would be for James to carry his unconscious body while fighting them. "James, what are your plans after this?" James shook his hand and said, "Just rest for now. I'll have things for you to do after you recover." "Okay." Henry complied. James stayed at the hospital the whole time until the Blight King came back. Blight King brought an ID card with him which he handed to James. The new identity has been set up. James took a good look. The name on the card read May Caden. Blight King explained, her background is that she's a distant relative of the Cadens. She is a loosely related cousin of yours. James tossed it to May as he laughed. May held the card in her hand as her heart raced with excitement. Ads by Pub Future. All these years, she had been a pariah in the underground world. Now, she can finally walk proudly in public with a proper identity. Thank you, James. James replied, all right. Go back to Common Clinic and wait there. When Henry recovers, I'll have new orders for you. Understood. May nodded. Henry, I'll be going now. James bid his friend farewell before he left and drove back to the Callahan house. Thea was the only one at home. Gladys and Benjamin had gone to the hospital to visit David. Thea was alone on the couch, watching videos on her phone. As soon as James opened the door, she greeted him, honey, come watch this. The medical conference released a trailer. James sat down beside her. He deliberately sat closer to her so that their skin was touching. Thea brought up a video on her phone. See, it's so exciting. James paid attention to the video. In the 5,000 years of Saul's history, our civilization shifted and evolved as it progressed. Our medicine is the product of our nation's rich culture melting together for half a millennium. The opening of the video featured an empowering voiceover. Right after that, footage of Medical Street was shown. Pictures after pictures of various clinics flashed past the screen. The annual medical conference is when every doctor of Saul comes together. From the ones with decades of experience to the unknown doctors that wander the streets. Hundreds of thousands of doctors will compete for the highest glory. Who will break through and become the new genius doctor? Will last year's champion drive Fallon reign again, or would it be a surprising newcomer this time? Right then, an old man in a traditional doctor's gown appeared. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am back. I am Bjorn Truman, the Doctor of Wonders. I am the representative of the Polar Route. The Polar Route focuses on acupuncture. I'll be the champion of this competition. Hello, everybody, I am Heather Morpheus, representing the Morpheus Group. Our strong suit is pharmacology. I am confident I'll be a strong competitor in this group. Famous doctors appeared one after another, all of them reading out their hopes. This video was just released this morning. Within half a day, it had amassed over 1 billion views. This was proof of the public's anticipation of this year's competition. After James finished watching the video, he grinned, drive Fallon, Doctor of Wonders, drive Morpheus. None of them will be able to win against the Black Dragon. Thea rolled her eyes at James. What does the Black Dragon have to do with you? James snorted. The Black Dragon is the true genius doctor. Every soldier from the southern plains knows medicine. I bet a random soldier will beat these so-called genius doctors. I know all this because I was personally trained by the Black Dragon before. Unfortunately, I won't get to meet him again. If he was still alive, this year's competition would be really fun. Thea got sad remembering the Black Dragon was no longer here. James gave his wife a confident smirk. Just wait, darling. I'll win the title of the genius doctor this time. I will make the Callahans proud, and this will mark the revival of the Callahans. James was not worried about the medical conference at all. Getting the title of Asclepius was a piece of cake for him. The only thing on his mind right now was to think of a way not to stand out too much. James' words calmed Thea down. She had pinned all of her hopes on James. If James could not help navigate the Callahans through this crisis, the family would be doomed. They would be consigned to mediocrity for the rest of their lives. Nighttime came. The family was having dinner. Knock, knock, knock. A knock came from outside. James stood up and answered the door. Lex, Howard's, and John's families were standing outside. Seeing this, James frowned and asked, "What's wrong, Grandpa?" Sigh. Lex sighed tiredly. "We'll talk inside." Ads by Pub Future. Please come in. James beckoned Lex to enter the house. Seeing that the Callahans were here, Gladys' face immediately turned sour. "Have a seat, Father." Benjamin stood up and greeted Lex. He asked, "Have you eaten yet? Should I ask James to get you some cutlery?" cutlery. Gladys remarked coldly, there's no way we can feed that many mouths. There were too many of them. Howard's and John's families combined together for a total of around 20 people. Lex took a seat. The others remained standing. James asked, didn't I lend you $1 million? Why didn't you go looking for a place to stay? Wearing a weary expression, Lex said dejectedly, the Watsons and the Zenoses have prepared for this. We've gone through many estate agencies, but upon hearing that we are the Callahans, they refused service to us. The same goes for hotels and the like. It's all because of you, Thea. Megan pointed at Thea and shouted, if not for you crossing the Watsons, this wouldn't have happened in the first place. You are such a blight on the family. Megan had long despised Thea. All because of Thea, the Callahans were in a crisis. Her boyfriend broke up with her. She was forced to move out of the Clahans villa and live on the streets. She could not even afford to take a hot shower. Tommy chimed in, BTCH. You think you're so glamorous and all that just because Mr. Watson took a liking to you. If you didn't mess with the Watsons, this wouldn't have happened. The other Callahans joined in. They hurled their vitriolic words at Thea. Thea hung her head in shame and remained silent. She was well aware that it was because of her that things turned out this way. Enough. James roared. Tommy stepped forward and pointed at James. You think we are afraid of you, trash? You are just a son-in-law of the Callahans. What right do you have to speak to me like this? James stood up and slapped Tommy across the face. Smack. The sound was loud and crisp. You. Holding his face, he pointed at James. He clenched his fists furiously and prepared for a fight. I'll kill you. Enough. Lex admonished him, we've got enough trouble on our hands. Tommy stopped himself from hitting James and shot daggers at him. James huffed and looked at the Callahans. The Watsons and the Zenoses are definitely taking things too far by trying to block the Clahans' access to accommodation, but the Callahans are a big family. You should have other relatives. Why don't you stay over at their places? Why come knocking on our door in the middle of the night? James' irritation was rising. Although this was the result of Thea's actions, she had no other options. Besides, he had been benevolent enough to give Lex $1 million for their daily needs. So why were they here insulting Thea? James would have resorted to violence if not for the fact that they were Thea's relatives. Lex lamented, you don't understand. After the incident, all our relatives have cut off contact with us. Jolie yelled, it's all because of Thea. She bankrupted the Callahans. I can't return to my mother's house anymore. No one answers my call. She glared at Thea. She would have slapped Thea across the face if she was not in front of so many people. Sigh. Lex sighed despondently. This is only natural. People fawn over you when you are rich and kick you when you are down. Aggrieved. Thea looked at James and pulled at his sleeves. She whispered, honey, can you think of something? We should help them find a place to stay for now. James gently grabbed Thea's hand and said, I will think of something. He walked out of the house and headed over to the stairs. Then, he lit a cigarette. He called Scarlett. J. James. Ads by Pub Future. Scarlett's agitated voice came from the phone. You finally called. Is everything alright? I'm fine. Scarlett, does Transgenerational Group have hotels? Yes, we are currently renovating the Transgenerational Hotel. Operations will begin next month. Also, we have taken over 3 5-star hotels in Kensington. Scarlett immediately reported the situation to James. I have around 20 people here. Help me make arrangements to put them up somewhere. Understood. Where are you now? Do you need me to send someone over to pick you up? No need. Just provide me with the address. The Callahans will get there by themselves. By the way, give Zara a heads up. Just tell her it was me who requested for her to arrange a room. Understood. James hung up the phone. After finishing his cigarette, he walked back into the house. Everyone looked at him. Thea walked over to him and asked anxiously, how did it go, honey? James smiled. I've sorted it out. Huh? Thea was shocked. She questioned him in surprise. The Watsons and the Zenoses have combined forces to make our lives difficult in Kensington. How did you manage to solve the problem? James said smilingly, have you forgotten that Zara works at Transgenerational Group? She's the head of a department. I gave her a call, and everything was solved. Transgenerational Group has hotels too. Even though the five provinces business alliance have a lot of influence, Transgenerational isn't afraid of them. Oh, I see. Tia nodded at his explanation. Leaning on his cane, Lex stood up. Full of gratitude, he thanked James. James, thank you so much. If you hadn't helped out, we would have to live on the streets. James lightly waved and smiled back at him. Grandpa, we're family, after all. Don't fret, there's nothing for you to worry about. This is only temporary. The Callahans will surely rebuild themselves eventually. HMPH. Don't be ridiculous. Rebuild. We have no chance. With Tia here, it's impossible. The Callahans retorted sarcastically. They understood the Clahan's situation. As things stood, rebuilding were the least of their concerns. James smiled and looked at Lex. Grandpa, I'll see you off downstairs. Sigh. Lex told James. I finally understand one thing after living for so long. Family will always be by your side no matter what. James shook his head. You're wrong, Grandpa. The only person you can rely on is yourself. Lex looked James in the eye. His instincts told him there was more to James than he initially thought. Though he seemed useless, he was never frightened and would move ahead without acting recklessly. He exuded an air of relaxed calm and confidence. James personally escorted Lex downstairs. Then, he told him the name and address of the hotel. James, why don't you come along with us? One of the younger Callahans looked at him quizzically. They were the subject of ridicule and mockery during the day. The moment the estate agencies, hotels, and even tiny motels realized who they were, they refused to serve them and drove them away. They were afraid of being kicked out again. They came close to having to sleep on the streets again. James casually dismissed them. It's going to be fine. Just go. I've arranged everything. You have nothing to worry about. James was not in the mood for this. For Tia's sake, he was benevolent enough to call Scarlett to arrange accommodations for them. If it were any other situation, he would not have wasted his time on this. Saying that, he turned and went upstairs. Lex addressed everyone. Now that the family is in a crisis, we need to be frugal. Let's not call a taxi. We'll get there using public transport. Everyone looked back at him aghast and helpless. The Callahans, who lived in what seemed to be unlimited wealth, were now forced to take public transport. They stood by the side of the road and waited for a bus. Meanwhile, after receiving James' call, Scarlett immediately ordered her secretary to see to it. The secretary then called the person in charge of Transgenerational Hotel and asked him to make the necessary arrangements. The person in charge then called his secretary. His secretary then called the general manager of the hotel. It was late at night, and the general manager of the hotel was in bed with a young model. He pulled his phone out and called the lobby manager. Then, he switched off his phone and continued having fun with the model in bed. As the lobby manager was not at the hotel, he called the front desk and instructed the receptionist to arrange for a room. After layers upon layers of communication, the front desk had, at last, received the orders from the higher-ups. The Glorious Hotel was a 5-star hotel in Kensington. It had just been taken over by Transgenerational Group, which had 100% of its shares. A group of people walked into the hotel. In its lead was Lex. Leaning on his cane, he walked in together with the rest of the Callahans. Welcome. A voluptuous attendant welcomed them with a bright smile. She brought them to the lounge of the first floor's foyer. Sir, do you have a reservation? Lex said. There should be one under the name of Lex Callahan. Look it up, please. All right. Please wait a moment. The attendant headed to the front desk. The front desk had received a call from the lobby manager just now to reserve 20 rooms for the Callahans. Yes, we have their reservation here, the receptionist said. Then, she handed the room cards to the attendant. Bring them to their rooms. The attendant returned to the lounge with the room cards in hand. Oh, at that moment, a sarcastic voice pierced through the lobby. A handsome-looking man walked into the hotel with a sexy woman in his arms. Upon entering the hotel, he saw the Callahans waiting at the lounge. He walked over to them with a smug grin. Coulson. Upon seeing him, Megan unconsciously stood up. She felt a surge of emotions. However, her face immediately darkened upon seeing the woman in his arm. What a coincidence, Megan. I heard that the Watsons and the Xenoses have combined forces to take on the Callahans. All your assets have been confiscated by the court. They've made it clear that they want to make the Callahans' lives as miserable as possible in Kensington. Do you even still have money to stay at a hotel? Will any hotel dare accept you? Tommy stood up and reproached him. Coulson, I don't blame you for not helping us out, but could not kick us when we're down. Besides, how could you just toss Megan aside just like that? Ha ha. Coulson laughed coldly. Then, he caressed the woman in his arm. Stop it, Coulson. The woman blushed. Coulson laughed. I am sick and tired of Megan. I wanted to dump her for the longest time. Now that the Callahans are in trouble, it's the perfect opportunity to break up with her. Look at this hottie. I got her for 30,000 a month. What about Megan? Do you have any idea how much I've invested in her? Megan gritted her teeth in anger. She stepped forward and slapped Coulson across the face. Smack. The slap rang crisply through the lobby. How dare you hit me? Enraged, Coulson lifted his leg and kicked Megan in the gut. Megan fell to the floor. Security. There's a fight going on here. Soon, the security guards arrived. Seeing them approach him, Coulson yelled, I'm an Oswald. Who are you to stop me? The security guards had never heard of the Oswalds. However, upon seeing the vicious look on Coulson's face, they froze. They did not want to provoke him further. At that moment, the attendant who had gone to the front desk was back. She addressed Lex politely. Mr. Callahan, this is your room card. Please follow me, I'll show you to your rooms. Coulson was taken aback at the treatment the Callahans received. There's a hotel that dares accept them. He immediately stepped forward in fury and said, Hey, where's your manager? Don't you know who they are? They're the Callahans. The Watsons and the Zenoses have made it clear. Anyone who provides them service is considered an enemy. Do you want to make the Watsons and Zenoses your enemy? The attendant froze upon hearing his words. Ads by Pub Future. She knew there was a directive against the Callahans. Immediately, she ran back to the front desk with the room card to verify. Meanwhile, the Callahans all wore grim expressions. Coulson laughed. Then, he pulled out his phone and called Key Xenos. Not too long ago, he managed to acquaint himself with Key by a pleasant coincidence. However, he did not have a chance to get closer to him. At long last, an opportunity had presented itself. The Callahans were his golden ticket. If he could get into Xenos' good books, the Oswalds would be set for life. Hey, Key, it's me, Coulson. We met before at a banquet. By the way, I saw the Callahans at the Glorious Hotel. It looks like they managed to get a room here. Key was woken up. He was irritated that Coulson called him in the middle of the night. His mood worsened when he heard the news. Who dares go against the Xenoses in Kensington? He cursed. Then, he immediately gave a call, investigate who Glorious Hotel belongs to. I'll put them in their place. At the front desk of Glorious Hotel, the attendant returned. Margaret, who ordered you to give them a room? This is Lex Callahan we are talking about. They have been blacklisted by the Watsons and the Xenoses. How could you give them a room? Are you looking to shut us down? The receptionist was shocked. She hurriedly explained, Mr. Woodrow instructed me to give him a call and request confirmation from him. The receptionist immediately called the lobby manager. Here's how it is, Mr. Woodrow. Back then, you instructed me to prepare 20 rooms for the Callahans. However, I've just received news that the Callahans have been ostracized by the Watsons and the Xenoses. Are we really going to take them in? The Watsons and the Xenoses have made it clear that anyone who takes them in will be considered their enemy. Woodrow was stunned. He had not heard about this. He immediately called the general manager. However, the call could not go through. He pondered for a moment. The Watsons and the Xenoses were powerful families. Although the owner of Glorious Hotel was an important person too, there was no way he would cross them. What he was unaware of was that Glorious Hotel had been taken over by Transgenerational Group. He pondered for a minute before he called back and ordered, cancel their rooms. Chase them out of the hotel. Understood. After receiving confirmation, the receptionist addressed the guards. Security, chase the Callahans out of here. The security guards nodded. The Callahans were stupefied. Everything was going swimmingly earlier. Why were they chasing them out now? Tommy spat angrily. That James. He told us there was nothing to worry about. I bet he's doing this on purpose to humiliate us. The Callahans were all chased out of the hotel by the security guards. Everyone cursed James. Grandpa, I told you James was up to no good. Nothing to worry about. So much for that. It's obvious that he's just rubbing salt in our wounds. That's right. I finally understand what he meant when he said that you can't depend solely on family. He's just saying in a roundabout way that he can't be relied on. They spat insults at James nonstop. Coulson followed them out of the hotel. He was Megan's ex-boyfriend and was acquainted with the Callahans. He did not want to target them specifically. However, this was a great opportunity to curry favor with the Watsons and the Zenoses. Whether or not the Oswalds would rise depended on him. With his new beau in his arms, he walked out and looked at the miserable Callahans. Then, he burst into a fit of cruel laughter. Lex, I never expected you and your family to fall like this. I have long despised you. Though you're broke as hell, your stubborn pride refuses to accept it. Serves you right. Enough. Coulson, ads by Pub Future. Johnson, Montgomery Callahan, stepped forward and rebuked Coulson. Back then while you were still Megan's boyfriend, we treated you as an honored guest. Even as we handled this crisis, we remained silent when you left Megan. So how could you kick us when we're down? An honored guest. Coulson sneered. What a joke. You treated me with respect just because I was an Oswald, and you wanted to ingratiate yourselves with my family. Would you have treated me the same if I was poor and powerless? Would Megan still have been my girlfriend? Would she have still slept with me? No, she wouldn't have. Let's face it, it's all because of money. Coulson mocked them relentlessly. Like grandfather like grandson. Everyone in the Callahan family is the same. Montgomery could no longer suppress his anger. Coulson had taken it too far. Montgomery charged toward him and punched him in the face. His fist came into contact with Coulson's nose. Coulson screeched in agony. Blood gushed out from his nose like a river. He held his bruised nose. In an instant, his hand was bloodied too. His expression contorted with rage, and he bellowed, "How dare you hit me? It's over for you. You're dead." All the ambitious prominent families in Kensington were watching the Callahans' every move. They were looking for an opportunity to antagonize them to curry favor with the Watsons and the Zenoses. Coulson was just lamenting the lack of opportunity. Now, however, Montgomery had punched him. He immediately called his father, Stefan. "Dad, someone just hit me. It was a Callahan. I'm outside Glorious Hotel right now. Come, quick, use your connections and escalate things. This is the perfect chance to prove ourselves to the Watsons and Zenoses." Hearing this, the Callahans all wore grim expressions. Tommy screamed at Montgomery, "What have you done? Don't you understand what kind of situation we're in now? How could you resort to violence? You've doomed us all." Montgomery said coldly, "Tommy, I'm standing up for your family. This beastard is saying all these awful things. Are you just going to lie down and take that?" Smack. Megan slapped Montgomery across the face. "This is my personal affair. You shouldn't have gotten involved. Apologize to Coulson now." "Megan, how dare you? My brother's standing up for you. Why are you on Coulson's side? Where's your conscience?" Weston could not stand it anymore. He stepped forward and scolded Megan. "Enough." Lex slammed his cane and yelled, "Silence, all of you. We have a lot on our plate already." The Callahans quieted down. Lex groaned dejectedly. "Forget it. Let's just leave." He turned to leave. "Can you though?"